Hello, Hockey World. Yeah. Sorry.
It's the droll act.
No, it's okay. We're all good. We're all good. I just checked out that email that was sent yesterday. Thanks. Made me a little bit droll. Anyway, here we go. All right, let's move on. Anyway, yeah, how you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah, we got a full crew today.
We got a pre-show too, Russ.
We do. Go ahead. You guys can mention that.
So,
eat my lunch.
I'd like to talk about Frank Robinson, who passed away. When I was a young kid, I actually, and I was probably 6 at the time because the Mets were playing the Orioles in the World Series. And I remember asking my mom if Frank Robinson and Brooks Robinson were brothers. But Frank Robinson was always on my radar because he was a great player. Like this guy, he won MVPs in both leagues. He's the only guy to do that. He won a Triple Crown. He also got thrown out. I want to say it was the 71 series by Roberto Clemente at the wall. Which was just an unbelievable throw, one of the best throws ever in the World Series.
He was the second last one to win the Triple Crown. I think Yaz was the last one.
Yes, he's the second.
Yeah.
And so now, but an interesting little story. I covered a bunch of Phillies games, and Frank Robinson was the manager of the Nationals at one time.
Right.
And so I did get to interview him, and he was older and a bit crankier. What was funny about it was he didn't answer one question. If you asked him a question, he would say, "We go ask that player." It was just. But
he had a well-known reputation as a bitterman, as a manager. It was like John Tortorella times 50.
It was, but it was just funny because I stood there because I knew, hey, I'm interviewing Frank Robinson, and if he keeps saying, "Go ask that guy," go ask that guy, I don't know. I thought it was funny. And then the other guy who passed away was Albert Finney. And as a young person, I remember him in the Murder from the Orient Express. Yes. And that's the only one that counts. Like the new one, I won't even go see it.
It actually wasn't bad.
No? Okay.
No, it wasn't bad. I mean,
but he was fantastic in that and a lot of other movies. And he just passed away too. So
you know the funny thing, I remember the first thing I remember him in was this bad movie with Gregory Hines called Wolfen, where I think it was about like people who turned into werewolves, and he was like some sort of medical doctor. I only saw like bits and pieces of it, but he was part of the Ocean. I think he was in Ocean's 12, and he had a bit role in Aaron Brockovich, or not a bit role. He was the second lead in that movie.
Yeah,
he was great in that. I posted a video of that on Facebook. But yeah, no, he's a great actor. Unfortunately, that era of British actor, which I loved, which is Richard Burton, Richard Harris, Peter O'Toole. The only one left of that group now is Sean Connery is retired from acting, and Michael Caine, who is in his early 80s and is still going like crazy. He's amazing, but all those guys are gone, and it's sort of like the musicians that we love. It's like when Greg Lake and John Wetton and Keith Emerson and all these guys that we listen to all of our lives, when they pass away, it's really, really sad because it makes us feel older, but it just shows that a generation of great musicians are dying.
You're horribly old, yes.
We're horribly old.
I know, no, it's true. And then with these guys, and then it's like, did you guys see the other night? I know you're not. I don't think you're a big Colbert fan, are you, Mike? But
no, I hate his. I
know, I love him. I think he's amazing. So
of course.
Well, yeah, he is a brilliant guy. But anyway, so the other night he had after the State of the Union, Colbert was on, and he had James Taylor on as part of to sing.
It was great.
Did you see it?
I didn't, but he's great, and he's still great. He still sounds great.
He sounded horrible, man. Like
I've heard him recently, and I've heard him sound really good.
It might have just been the situation like that, but he looks so crazy old.
Yeah.
And he sounded like he was really struggling. I don't know. It could be anything, really. I mean, honestly,
it could honestly. Russ, who was the guy that you said that you had heard recently, and he was terrible, but there were other instances where he was good. It was some.
No. It was Pat Benatar, actually.
Pat Benatar. That's right. Okay, and it's like
maybe he had a cold.
All these people who run the casino circuit, they're gonna have their good days. They're gonna have their bad days.
Yeah.
you got to that's the caveat emptor that's going in when you're looking at sort of B-level classic rock who can't fill stadiums anymore. They do the
Right.
small casino theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Good and bad. That's just what it is. They were never consistent in their prime.
Right.
They're not going to start getting consistent.
Well,
now.
that's
Hey,
why
there was a trade. I've got a trade.
We had
to
a trade to talk about. We do.
All right, go ahead.
Let's start the show and we get right into it. Okay.
Start the
Okay.
Yep. Jan, you follow me. Jan, you follow me. Then Peter after that.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Also, Lego Movie 2 comes out tonight. Lego Movie, by the way, is in my top 10 movies of all time. The Lego Movie.
I heard it was good. I've still never seen it.
I know you guys haven't. We've talked about this before, but Lego Movie 2 is out tonight. And Chris Pratt, is the star of Lego Movie. It's off Lego Movie 1. If you've never seen it, watch it. Lego Movie 2, I'll be there tomorrow night watching it for sure. Here we go. Ready?
Okay.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, February 8th, 2019.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Jan Levine.
I'm Peter Tessier.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. And today we've got 6 on the ice. We pulled the goalie. Remember, you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And we have a trade, and the Predators, again, are involved in this one. And this is I don't know what to make of this trade yet. I
haven't seen it. So
okay,
I haven't seen it.
I'm about to tell you, it's with the Arizona Coyotes. And so what happens is Arizona gets Elias Pettersson, or Peterson, I guess Pettersson, right? And Nashville gets Laurent Dauphin,
right?
And Adam Haluka. Russ, tell us a little bit about this trade because you're probably the only one who can help us here.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I at one time I really thought Laurent Dauphin would have a nice NHL career because he's a really fast player and he's a pretty adaptable guy. Can do a lot of different things on the ice with line mates. Can play center. Can play wing. For whatever reason, the Coyotes could never get him going. He was having a decent year in Tucson, but I really do think he still could have an NHL career. I don't want to say that Arizona's given up prospects that have gone and done well elsewhere, like Dylan Strome. I don't want to say that, but It's true. Well, and Dauphin is not at the level of Dylan Strome. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
With the brain kit, like we know about all that. But end of the day, I think Dauphin can be used as a decent role player. He's only 23. Pettersson's pretty good. I don't know if he'll find his exact role in the NHL because he's kind of like, he's fast. He does have some skill in his game. He could score a little bit at the AHL level. I think with Nashville he was blocked, so I think he'll get a chance here. So I think that's good for him. And Haluka's always been like a quadruple A guy. Like maybe he'll come up and just be a guy that's a fill-in guy. But I still like Dauphin the most of all these players.
Yeah, well, let me just say this because this just smacks to me of they could get, as you said, a player who was sort of blocked by the Preds in terms of being able to get up there and play regularly, and you're getting a player who has played in the NHL before, who can be an effective 13th, 14th forward in a playoff run. You really don't want, unless it's a rookie who you think has top end ability, to have a rookie as your black ace. You'd rather have somebody who has some NHL experience, who's not fazed by the potential of a playoff game being a reserve. And we know that, if they're prepping for a long run, they need somebody who had NHL experience as a depth guy. Yeah. So I think that's all this is. I still think that the Preds are going to make a move for a big forward. So this is just more of David Poile tinkering, but it's a good depth ad, I think.
Picking up a lot of things, like Preds are making a lot of little, a lot of these are definitely the kind of trades that a team that, is planning on going long into the playoffs would make. They're looking at all the injuries that happen and having solid players. They might not like their guys in Milwaukee enough right now to really trust them if they have to put them in there. Some of these situations, I think, or they might not want to rush them up into the playoffs. Right. But they're definitely, looking at injuries here for sure. And what?
You stuck there a little.
Oh,
no.
Anyway, so that is happening.
Well, Kyle Turris is just coming back from an injury. I mean, if you look at the depth that they have, like in their minors, I mean, Tolvanen we've mentioned. I mean, he might be part of a trade if they make a move for a big forward. But you look, it's like Philip DiGiuseppe, Nick Baptiste. I mean, these are all basically fourth line, or 4A players using a baseball using a baseball comparison. So, I mean, I just think that in this instance, they add somebody with NHL experience. So
and speed. He has really good speed.
And you know what? This is what we love about our chat room, guys. We found this out because of our chat room, because we were on the air at the time. And when you get to our chat room, you go to the YouTube channel where this exactly is playing at this time. And if you have to be live, of course, because there's no time travel in the chat room. But if you're live,
our chat room pointed out Mike is still wearing gray.
Yes, well,
dark gray
today. Sorry,
charcoal gray.
I was told, never, as a musician, we're never allowed to wear dark colors like gray like that. But it's pretty funny.
Don't tell the Tampa Bay Lightning.
The name of your band was Gray Eye Glances. So why wouldn't you wear gray?
Don't tell the Tampa Bay Lightning, because that's what their new third jersey.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. I don't know. I watched a little bit of that game last night. Tampa Bay St. Louis. It ended up 1-0 St. Louis in overtime. And I have to tell you, I have to give kudos to whoever was broadcasting that game, because I could not read the friggin' numbers on the back of the Lightning jerseys. They were the same color as the jersey.
A big pet peeve of mine is numbers on jerseys not having like white outlines on them. Like that's just like, especially I like the whole stadium trend for a while, where the stadium series jerseys would have these huge numbers on them, which I thought made sense because people are far away in the stadium, and you want to see them. But yeah, looking at the stadium jerseys for the Flyers and Penguins.
Yeah, is there?
You want to read any of those numbers?
Is there an allergy because of the color white? Because both of those jerseys, it's gold and black for Pittsburgh. It's orange and black, and not a speck of white anywhere.
The thing about these jerseys, you got to remember, and this is really important, is that a lot of these jerseys look better on the on the shelves than they do in the games. They are made for that. A lot of times these third jerseys are like, I think the Flyers orange and black one is pretty.
So do a lot of clothes too, right? You try them on and you say, "Wow, it looked great on the mannequin. It looks like garbage on me."
Hey, that's why I bought this shirt.
But yeah, but I didn't think. I mean, the one thing I do agree with someone in the chat room who said this, that bolts, at least bolts isn't written on it anymore. I'm not a big fan of the whole nickname on the jersey thing.
Yeah, the problem is, Russ, the mannequin was better looking than I was.
I'm sure it had hair. I mean, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it did too. But yeah, join us in the chat room because they told us about this. They told us they're really interesting and they've got a lot of good stuff going on. And we have a little game we play where you can guess the jerseys that I changed behind me from the last time we were on the air. Last time I was on the air, and I changed one again today. So, yeah, there's so many little things I want to get into here. Where to start? Let's talk about. All right, let's start with Matt Duchene for a second, because I'm doing a lot of calling on Matt Duchene, and it's interesting, how the Senators are trying very hard to control the press. The Senators have always been about this. I mean, they don't have the guy they used to have there. I forget his name, who was really who was their media director, who was a really famous Canadian Team Canada Olympics media director, who was crazy obsessed with controlling the press. And that was why a lot of things used to go wacky in Ottawa. He was a great guy, but he was obsessed with controlling the press. And Ottawa is such a small town place that, the players and the fans all go to the same bars. And there's a real issue about Ottawa's terrified of rumors, right? So they'll play the way they play it in the press is sometimes different than how you actually hear how things are going. And how I hear things are going with Duchene are actually not terrible. I hear it's getting they're pretty confident. There's actually some people and then they're afraid to be confident, of course, because if they come out and say we were confident, what's going to happen next, But I think Steve Duchene, man. I think Steve
Duchene's retired. I think that
Duchene was a great defenseman in his time, but
I think he'd take 8 years at $8 million.
Yeah. I really like Steve Duchesne. Matt Duchesne, I actually think he's going to sign, and I think it's going to get done in Ottawa within the next like couple days. Like that, and if it happens, it does change the environment pretty quickly. Although I know you guys were on yesterday, and I really felt bad I had to cancel the last second because of my kid yesterday. But this does play into Mark Stone and what happens there with Mark Stone, and and all the teams like Winnipeg who are interested in Mark Stone. But
the thing is, Zach, and I mean, what's coming out of Ottawa? I mean, one day you hear they're going to trade Stone and they're going to keep Duchesne, and the next day they're going to keep Duchesne and they're going to trade Stone. It keeps fluctuating back and forth. And the thing is, if they do get Duchesne locked up, then I think it's almost certain they're going to trade Stone. I don't know whether, based on what Eugene Melnyk said in Toronto on Tuesday to that group at the Hockey Hall of Fame, that they are interested in extending themselves fiscally to pay both of them. Because honestly, if they sign Duchesne, the rumors are it's going to be in the neighborhood of $8 million on an 8-year deal.
Right.
Stone could be the second highest paid winger in the league behind Patrick Kane, and Patrick Kane makes 10.5. So you're thinking Stone's going to be 9.5 to 10 million. I don't think they're going to, and they'll have the cap room, but that's not the problem. The problem is whether they want to spend money in 2 years, where Eugene Melnyk has basically said, we're going to suck. We're going to be at the bottom of the league. We're going to retool. We're going to rebuild. They're going to finish low. Going to try to finish low for high draft picks. They're probably going to move out guys like Peugeot, like CC. That's the reality, and they're going to build around the Kachuks and the Shabbats and the Philip Gustafsons.
Yeah,
that's the reality. And if that's the case, maybe you want one veteran guy to be the leader, to be the captain. But you're talking about spending $17 to $20 million a year on two guys just to have veterans there. And I don't know whether Melnyk is gonna do that.
I mean, someone pointed this out too, that Duchesne, even though he's not as good as Stone,
he's a center.
And if you let him go, it just looks horrible based on the draft pick you're giving up and everything like that. Like, you can't, what you gave up for Stone, what you gave up for Duchesne, you have to try to, bless you.
Yeah, but you can't invest $8 million times 8 years just to save face.
No, and the crazy thing is, Mark Stone is not. I mean, Matt Duchesne. Man, I'm losing my mind today. Matt Duchesne is not a big time scorer in the NHL. Like, as far as goals go, he's a good solid player.
But you don't. It depends where you're putting Duchesne.
He's having his best year ever, though.
If you're putting Duchesne in a place like Winnipeg, you don't need him to score goals. You need him to get Line and Ehlers and Connor scoring goals.
Yep.
Right.
It's a different need, right, for different teams. If you're someone who needs goals, you probably want Mark Stone.
Right. And
I think, by the way, I know you guys tried to talk about this yesterday, I think Mark Stone in Winnipeg would be absolutely deadly as far as things go. Like, I think that as far as what they need, that's great.
They needed skates last night. But
Duchesne gets 20 to 30 goals every year. He's just not Ovechkin. That's all. But
right. And the thing is, Russ, is that if he re-signs in Ottawa, he's the de facto #1 center for the next 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Even Logan Brown won't reach that height, I don't think. So you're right. But I will tell you, there was a lot of conversation in the press box last night, and you want to talk about a vote of no confidence for any of the two signing in Ottawa. That's pretty much what the thinking was.
Really?
So, yeah, just because, again, if you were one of those players and you wanted to win, you're now going to have to eat up 3 years of your contract in hopes that year that they finally decide they're going to spend money, that they could actually compete, which is more like 4 years or 5 years until they're actually competing again, because they're not going to have a ready-built team even with prospects overnight. It's not going to happen.
Right. And Kevin, we had Kevin on the show yesterday, and he agreed with my analysis of the fact that what Melnyk said could have been to convince Stone and Duchesne, be upfront with Stone and Duchesne, and that's the reality of what the situation is. But it also could be Melnyk spinning in terms of providing the organization cover, saying, okay, we're going to be bad for 2 years. And them having to trade them means they weren't going to buy into that. So we were justified in having to trade them. And then Kevin said that was probably the case. So if they can get them signed at their amount, then fine. But if they can't, then they didn't want to buy into the program, and they are justified in moving them for as much as they can possibly get. And I think they will get a good haul for both of them, because there are, I would say, at least 5 or 6 teams that are looking for a Stone or Duchesne before February 25th.
I got breaking news again.
Go ahead.
So Artemi Panarin has now changed agents.
I was just about to talk about that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, this is
okay, from Daniel Milstein to who?
I'm finding that out right now. I'll know in a second.
Well, okay, let's just say this: if it's the Orr group or if it's Pat Brisson, then I'm telling you right now, he is gone. He is gone. I mean, he's going to try to hit the. I mean, we already got the indication that he wasn't going to talk contract with Columbus during the season. I mean, now if he hires one of the big guns, then he's looking to break $10 million on a big free agent.
Just be real about something. He's been looking for this payday ever since he's been with Chicago. Like
and this is why Chicago moved him. Chicago knew this.
Right. They knew that.
They were. I mean, because everyone was shocked.
I don't begrudge him that, but it's true.
Him, you know.
Now you know what it's possible too, and we've seen this happen before. He could be representing himself. Because he doesn't want to give up the 10% or whatever percentage it is to his agent. He may say, okay, well, I know the parameters of these deals. I want a no move clause. I want to make $10 million a year, blah, 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 blah. I can negotiate that myself and save the money that I would have to pay the agent.
You know what? That's the Doughty position.
Yes.
That's a whole bunch of things. Here's the thing about when you're an agent. And an agent is an agent. Pick your industry. You're a middleman who provides a service. You don't even provide a service. You provide a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Your solution has to be enough that it convinces the person that your cost, which is a percentage, usually around 3%, and stuff going forward. So what someone like a Brisson or the Orr group, or even the Alan I said it.
Octagon.
If you're going to this, your value proposition and your service and your solution to the client is all the other things. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry lawyer can sit there and look at the contract, is understanding the other side of things in the CBA that makes these guys have value, and what other services you provide as an organization for them. Is it wealth management? Is it, all these other things, moving if you get traded, blah, 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 all this stuff.
And you're exactly right. And the thing about agents is that they, obviously different kinds of players, agents do different things for different kinds of players. And there's some, when you're talking about the Panarins of the world.
So, what does Alan Walsh do for his players besides getting them to leave clubs?
No, Octagon has camps. They have development things.
No, Octagon does a lot of stuff, but I agree. I mean, but Alan Walsh, everybody has their own method, right?
Yeah, and Alan Walsh's method is to ostracize people and pick on them on Twitter.
And lie to people. I mean, but whatever. I won't get into that.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, the whole thing is, I mean, there are some agents I always think about back to some players like Kimmo Timonen, who is in LA, comes in. That's where Kimmo Timonen was drafted by the Kings. Goes to the Kings, and the Kings, we weren't a great team, but they weren't. It was not a really good fit. Like, there was nowhere for him to go there. He wasn't getting in the lineup. His agent then works a deal to get him traded to the Predators because and then the rest is history. That's something agents do a lot. They try to get them in the best position you can and sometimes good agents realize that you'll take less money to be on a team where you'll play more because that'll take you further down the line,
And there's also relationships with teams and agents based on numerous players. I can tell you, like, Pat Brisson is the agent for John Tavares. He was at the center of the whole Tavares negotiation with the Leafs and with other teams last July. Pat Brisson is also the agent for Jake Gardiner. And Pat Brisson was in Toronto on Wednesday to talk to the Leafs about Jake Gardiner. Duchesne is there too, and I think Duchesne is a Brisson representative as well. So it may have been a dual situation, but the Leafs are, I mean, we're not going to talk all about the Leafs, but the Leafs are coming up on a decision with Gardner where they probably are going to lose him in free agency. He apparently wants to stay in Toronto. The Leafs would like to keep him, but based on what he's going to get in free agency, they can't keep him. So it may be a situation where if they could get him cheaper, they would sign him. But I don't see how they do that unless they move out other salaries between now and the summer. So
right. Well,
those are
one of the better ones, and I think that, I mean, at least the agents I've dealt with, I do think that, because one of the big problems is big agents. If you're with a really big agent like Pat Brisson or Alan Walsh or
Don Meehan,
or in the back in the day, Rich Winter, you're with these guys who are big agents, and you're not a big superstar player, you're gonna hate your life. I mean, because these agents, they pay way more attention to their superstars than they do the other players, and that happens. A lot of guys will end up in that.
You know what? I would love actually someone to really go in and do an interesting long form deep dive about the agent client process of finding them,
where they
come from, the relationships, the ones that have been cemented in stone, like the Crosby Brisson one, and the ones that have gone south, and not the horror stories about investments, but why things don't click. And all the different ins and outs, because there's a lot of agents.
I don't know how many people would be interested in it. I've thought about writing it before, but I'm interested in it for sure.
But I mean, like this, we're talking like 10,000 word level.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, really long.
Usually write a book on it.
It'd be very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, it is funny because, and this is just off the hockey page for just a sec. I mean, the whole thing that's going on in baseball right now with Scott Boras and the agent that represents Manny Machado, where there's sort of a face-off, is the guy who's the agent for Machado used to work for Boras, and then he stole a couple Boras clients, one of which is Machado. And now there's sort of a thing going back and forth where one is waiting for the other to make a signing so the other one can top the other. It's sort of this game. I find the thing that's interesting, like with the Matthews situation, Judd Moldaver, who his agent was part of Pat Brisson's group, and he went to Orr, and Matthews followed him. Yeah. So there was a loyalty there between the Matthews family and Judd Moldaver, and they stuck with him and went where he went in terms of the agency.
Well, I think that was an interesting situation, because I do think that, in a way that was, that's almost a chicken or egg situation too. Like, he had to go to Bobby Orr because he had to, Matthews needed he needed more power behind, more.
Well, I mean, Brisson is as powerful as you can get.
I know, but Brisson has a lot of clients at the same time, and if you're negotiating, I mean, remember Kovalchuk, the whole situation with Kovalchuk, and I forget who else it was this summer.
Yeah.
Why can't I think of this? But that basically, was it Duchesne? No. I forget who it was, but it was somebody in Kovalchuk this summer or was Tavares? Maybe it was Tavares and Kovalchuk.
Well, what?
There were two situations going at the same time, and Kovalchuk, somebody fired the agent that's Kovalchuk's agent because
it wasn't Tavares. Tavares stuck with Brisson.
Man, there was like.
Well, anyway, but yeah, I get you.
He fired it because he felt like he was spending all his time on Kovalchuk, and that's what happens in these situations. Agents it's a tricky business to get into for sure. It's but how they find the players is always fascinating, and has a lot to do with their personalities. And then when agents sometimes become general managers, the way, I always think it's good. I think that's a good thing for agents to do, because it's a hard thing for them to do because they lose a lot of money doing it. But agents usually lose a lot of money when they become GMs. But at the same time, they're the best negotiators because they can look at the other agents and say, okay, I know exactly what you're doing here. You're not going to get screwed. And, those, some of the better agents, some of the better GMs have that, in their pocket.
Well, I think that we should talk a little bit about where things are right now based on the standings, because, I mean, all of a sudden you open your eyes this morning, and when you look at the Western Conference standings, you see the St. Louis Blues in the second wild card spot. And I think that's going to have a little bit of a chilling effect on the deadline, in the sense that I don't think that now, they may make a deal where they trade a Parayko if they get help immediate, if they get players who can step in. But I don't think that they're on a hot streak. Jordan Binnington's 8-1-1 in his last 10 games. they're not going to trade Pietrangelo. They're not going to trade Parayko. Right now I don't think they're going to buy, but I don't think they're going to sell either. So
no, they're definitely not. And because you remember what they did on July 1st and right around the draft was an absolute going for it.
Sure.
St. Louis, they made moves for now to win now. And yeah, they're finally back in a position where they could actually have a possibility of doing that.
I'm going to take credit on two fronts, and we all thought they needed a goalie change. That's for sure. Like that is something we all take credit for. But I always thought Binnington could be the guy, and it's now kind of interesting that after all this time, he is the guy, and I think that's great because he's a guy that's waited so long for this opportunity, and he's not blowing it, man. He's showing exactly what he's got.
But
I totally agree, and like I think I mentioned before, but I had Darren Pang, who used to write for Hockey Buzz, and obviously that's just one of his many. Obviously, other things that Darren Pang's done in his life, but he was Darren's a buddy, and I remember, geez, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, talking to him, and he was telling me that this Binnington, he was the guy, that this was going to be their goalie. He was going to be the guy, and we all kind of were curious as to why he never got much of a look at all.
It's just because Jake Allen had a stranglehold on the organization for whatever reason. And once they decided to relieve him of that, they've now found out that that was indeed the problem.
But this is an inherent problem with the Blues going back to Ben Bishop. And remember, Ben Bishop was, I think, a second-round pick. He was in the minors for a couple years. He had unbelievable stats. They called him up, and then they basically traded him within like 3 weeks of him playing in the NHL. So
the only difference of that, Mike, is I don't think Bishop was what he was then, what he is now. There really was a difference. Look, like Binnington didn't even get a chance to show what he was at any time.
Well, the comparative I'm making here is the fact that they really didn't give Bishop that money. I mean, everybody was talking about Bishop being a trade piece before he really got much of a chance at the NHL level. It's like, don't be so quick to judge when it comes.
So I got it. This was just texting me, and I think you guys are talking about it in the chat room too, right? Yeah. Okay. So Panarin just hired the agent that is Bobrovsky's agent.
Oh boy, folks. Here we go.
The folks in here, we know a little bit more about this than we should. So yeah, we talked about this out the air at one point. There's a whole story to that, and this is not.
Is this going to be Parise Suter all over again?
Possibly, but this is not something that Columbus is going to be thrilled about. Put it that way.
Well, okay, but I mean, okay, I am and maybe I'm jumping the gun here. I am assuming that neither one of these guys will be in Columbus. Neither one of them are going to sign. I think they're both gone.
But I think they knew that. I think Columbus knew that.
Right. But they hoped that they could get one signed. I think they pretty much knew that Bobrovsky was gone since he essentially provided them with a list of teams he would go to. They were holding out hope on Panarin. Now they know Panarin is not going to come back.
Yeah.
So they're, right now, looking at the standings after last night, you've got Carolina at 60 points, 3 points behind Columbus and Pittsburgh. So their playoff situation is tenuous. They have not been playing well. And like you said, Russ, if they have a 5 or 6 game winning streak, then all this goes away. But
they're winning a couple in a row now, and Philly is now 8 points out.
Yeah.
Like, again, 4 more wins by Columbus. It makes it almost impossible.
But do they trade these guys, or at least one of them? Maybe they don't trade. I mean, I would trade Bobrovsky because I think Korpisalo is an NHL goaltender. I think could be a number 1. You can go with him. I mean, he's not as good as Bobrovsky, obviously, but he's somebody who, give him a chance to be the number 1, see what he does in a playoff situation. But Panarin,
they're stockpiling points.
Ivanis is the agent.
Okay.
Which is Bobrovsky's agent. Okay. And that is confirmed, I was told. So, yeah, I mean, and the person I just talked to there said, and they're not watching the show at all, of course, unfortunately, right now. But they
how dare you?
Yeah, how dare they? But they said this is starting to feel like Suter Parise. That's what they said, right?
Yeah, I will say this though, just to get back to Mike's point about Columbus. Mike, they're stockpiling points. They'll make a decision on trade deadline day.
Right.
But if they could build up a cushion, then I think you will see one or both of them get traded. If they can't build up a cushion, then I think Bob is going to stay and Panarin's going to go. That's the way I think it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's not unique for their division too, because I think the Islanders are going to be in the same position.
Right.
They're going to be the unique buy-sell team. They're going to sell and they're going to buy.
Yes.
So, and then maybe they buy-sell in the same deal. Maybe it's a hockey deal. But the thing is, I can't see Dale Talon trading the type of assets that Columbus is going to want in a deal to get Panarin without any kind of understanding of Panarin. And what, if he has to have some guarantee from his representative, okay, we'll sign with you. You can't trade a Trocheck or you can't trade a Huberdeau in a deal for Panarin without having a guarantee that Panarin is going to extend.
Well, we say that, Mike, but again, that's a team right now that also needs bodies in the seats.
Yeah.
And,
they do. And
when you need that and you maybe need excitement or a jolt, or if they feel there's still a chance at the playoffs, then they might do something like that.
And remember this: it's the Florida Panthers. It's Florida. It's no state tax. It's a situation where
it's Florida.
No
one shows up, and Dale Talon's the GM. This is the thing for Panarin. If all he cares about is getting paid, Florida's your place for sure.
Right.
But if you care about actually having some success and tasting a bit of victory and stuff, then maybe you proceed with caution around Dale Talon and anything to do with Sunshine, Florida.
Until Panarin and Bobrovsky 3 years from now are suiting up for the Quebec Nordiques,
Well, but here, I don't want to say that, Peter, because I've actually been impressed with what Chris Pronger has done in Florida. I've had a chance to, see him working in action, sort of scouting, and you know what? I don't want to fully say that about Florida because they do have pieces there, and they are a team where if they got it right, could do something. It just, again,
their fans do come out when they're winning.
Yeah.
I mean, not incredible numbers, but the tax purposes, and also, I've talked to people about this all along. I remember, I can't remember anybody's name today, but one of the Russian players who played there a long time ago in Florida, and he just continued to play there. He was one of our biggest trade rumor guys of all time. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. Who missed the penalty shot? Who missed the breakaway in the Flyers Rangers thing? Come on.
Well, no, it's Finn. He's a Finn. Olli Jokinen.
Thank you. All right, so Olli Jokinen was there, not a Russian, but
yeah, he'd hate you if you called him a Russian.
I know, but still, from that, when you grow up in Finland or Russia, Miami doesn't suck. Okay, that's the bottom line. You go to Miami, and where it's 80 degrees and not 80 even below zero. It's definitely
it's let's just say that it's a destination spot for NHL players, but it may not be a destination spot to win. And that's the thing. It's like great. It's great, nice weather, and like you said, Russians and Finns. Valerie Bure, Pavel Bure, they played there. They
love building sandcastles. They do.
Yeah, that's one they love South Beach, just like some of the NBA players loved going down and play for the Miami Heat. But if you want to win, that organization hasn't proved that they could since 1996.
Yeah, but they got talent. They've got the right players. They had a rough year for sure.
And I like Dale Talon. I'm just saying it's like, the problem is they had to completely reset the organization since the analytics group screwed things up a couple years ago. And, they had to move like bad decisions like signing Dave Boland's contract. And I don't know what they're going to do with Reimer or Luongo if they do bring in Bobrovsky. So, there are a lot of problems that they have to sort of straighten out there. But the core group is there, and maybe the problem is they have to break up that core group a little bit because they haven't succeeded with Huberdeau, Barkov, Trocheck, Ekblad, Matheson over the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. We were looking at the standings before all this went down for a second.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I wanted to point this out. Look at how this will have a chilling right now. And granted, we have over 2 weeks to go, so things can change. But right now, literally nobody is out of the race for the wild cards in the West.
Yeah.
Minnesota's at 57. St. Louis is at 55. You go down the line. Vancouver 55, Colorado, Edmonton, and Chicago at 53. Arizona, Anaheim at 51. Even the LA Kings, they're 7 points out.
So let me tell you this about the Kings game last night. I was in the Kings locker room, and you know what? The feeling was that this was one of their best games of the year, and this is one of the best games of the year without Dion Phaneuf and without Jeff Carter. What does that say?
They were into it on the bench. I was watching that game on TV, and every time they looked at the bench, like Alec Martinez and a couple of the other players were high-fiving each other and giggling. And I think the pressure is off because they've assumed, they traded Muzzin. They've traded a few other players. They're probably going to trade Hagelin before the deadline. It's all loosey-goosey. We really don't have any consequence here because nobody expects us to be in the race. But at 7 points, and Philadelphia's behind by 8, so there is as much in the race in the West as the Flyers are in the East. But still, they're still in it because nobody's out of it.
Something to point out. Something to point out that the Kings do pretty often now. As one now, Austin Wagner is another. They called him up. He was a good junior player. He wasn't a great player, but he's good, really good. And he is contributing. He's got 10 points. He was a factor in that game. He got behind the defense a couple times. He's a hilarious kid. He missed a really great opportunity. I think it was in the second period, and I asked him, do you blame that on the ice? And he goes, no, it was a bad toe. I tried to kick it to I think he said he tried to kick it to his stick, and he goofed it up. And he was funny. He thought the last time he got used in a shootout was actually with Regina all those years ago. He said he never got used in Ontario, and he was thinking they were talking on the bench, goofing around that he might be one of those next guys in if they didn't win it in the shootout. So that kind of looseness makes me kind of wonder without Phaneuf and Carter there, could they be on the way out?
And I have to say this because I'm gonna write about this tomorrow because tomorrow is the 3rd anniversary of the trade that the Leafs made with Ottawa to trade Phaneuf to the Sens. If Lou Lamoriello wasn't in the Hall of Fame already, he should have been put in the Hall of Fame for that deal because getting rid of $7 million of salary and for basically taking the crap of like Jared Cowan and Milan Mihalik and Colin Greening back for a year. I mean, it's just the fact that they didn't have to retain any salary on Phaneuf, and then a couple years later, the Senators having to retain almost $2 million. And now you look at Phaneuf, he's got 3 points in 46 games. He's got 2 years left at over $5 million, and the Kings are screwed.
Yeah, no, I know that's it. And I've never been a Phaneuf guy, as you guys know. But the Western Conference.
I want to be fair about this. I was at that signing at the Winter Classic, right? Yeah. And did I think the AAV was a little high? Sure.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was a horrible signing to begin with. Now, after the fact, it's easy to say it was a horrible signing because of things that happened.
Right.
But he was still a pretty useful player at the time.
Yeah, but Russ, he was slowing down even then.
He wasn't slowing down enough then.
He was.
No, I disagree.
I watched the guy every damn day. He was slowing down, believe me.
But you also think of it in a certain way, too, that I think sometimes you're too close to it. I'm telling you, I don't think he was too slow then. Later in the deal, yes, that did start to happen. But I don't think that was the worst signing in the world at the time. It was just too much money.
Right,
but that was really the issue.
They were able to extricate themselves from it. So I mean, that was the best thing about it. But what are we looking at here, Ralph?
Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this. So this is last night. This is this Strome goal from DeBrincat in this game. Now Chicago's won 6 in a row now. As we're talking about the Western Conference. But the amazing thing about this, remember that DeBrincat and Strome played together in juniors, and they picked Erie, right? This is exactly why you do this. I mean, DeBrincat makes an incredible pass to Strome there.
Yeah.
And these two guys, and suddenly the Hawks are, have won 6 in a row, are right in the middle of that playoff hunt, and a scary team again.
Well,
they're not scary. Let's not.
Let's go to Peter. What do you think about the Hawks?
Sorry, say it again.
The Blackhawks, Peter. Are they a scary team to you at all? Or do you think?
I don't think I think they're, you know what? They're like someone who has a ton of intelligence, but doesn't know how to use it and wants to try and extort someone. Oh, they're like AMI. They're just smart enough to be dangerous. And that's the kind of thing the Blackhawks are. Sorry.
No, but
you hit a certain point where you can't not make comments. Anyways, that's what the Blackhawks are like. Taze is kind of having a resurgent season. Kane's deadly.
He's deadly.
I mean, if you really wanted to change the trajectory of that franchise, that's the guy you trade, because you will get a boatload for him.
Yeah, but you can't.
No.
I know you can't, but you can, but you can't.
But this,
they're dangerous.
But this is the thing, Peter.
Not consistently dangerous.
But this is the thing. If you look at what's come out over the last week and a half, I mean, first of all, we all said, and we talked about it yesterday, that the moves that Stan Bowman made to get younger players, to get Kajula from Edmonton, to get Strome and Perlini from Arizona were good moves, because, I mean, they could sign Strome. Strome did not do anything in the couple years in Arizona. He's got 1 year left after this year on his ELC. He doesn't have a big resume in terms of NHL success. So Bowman can get him locked up on a deal for 3 or 4 or 5 years at a reasonable amount. And if he's effective with DeBrincat, then you have a number 2 center behind Taves, a guy who was a top 3 pick in the draft, who's 22, 23 years old. And it's a great move for the organization. But you look at what's been coming out over the last week or so. They asked Seabrook to waive his no move. He said no. They supposedly did the same thing with Keith. We haven't heard anything about that. Came out this morning. They're shopping Artem Anisimov.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if they're not trying to shop Brandon Saad with a year left in his contract. I think they're trying to move out what they can, because there are guys they probably can't move. But I don't think they're going to try to turn it around quickly.
I talked about Strome and DeBrincat on SiriusXM this morning, because it was a no-brainer trade for Chicago to get these two guys together. But again, this is also the same thing why I bring up with the Leafs. Bracco and Matthews have this same connection. That's why you don't trade Bracco. Right. Same reason. But getting back to this, it's really amazing. I can't fully blame the Arizona Coyotes for Strome not doing what you wanted him to do.
Right.
But sometimes it does go back to just, if you can get the guys the right chemistry, it makes all the difference. And I think that's not the Coyotes' fault, but it's a big plus for the Blackhawks right now.
Now, the rumor du jour that came out yesterday, I'm going to write about it a little bit. There seems to be some renewed interest between Carolina and Toronto. Lawrence Gilman, who is the assistant GM of the Leafs, was in Buffalo yesterday to watch the Canes and the Sabres. When there was I can't remember. It wasn't a World Junior game. I think it was it was the top prospects game in Red Deer. The previous night, the Leafs hierarchy went to Calgary to watch the Hurricanes and the Calgary Flames. And there's been a consistent presence by Rick Dudley in Toronto at Marlies games and at Leafs game. Now, that's not unusual because he's always in Toronto. He's always scouting. But I'm just trying to figure out where this is going, because, I mean, obviously I think the Leafs still need that right-handed defenseman, and Carolina's is playing 4 of them on their top 6. They had Pesce and Justin Falk playing in the same pairing last night against the Sabres. The thing is, though, it would be very complicated in season for them to do a type of deal, because I think the Leafs would have to move out a guy like Zaitsev or a guy like Gardner to make room for
do that.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's only possible if they get a top 4 back, like a Pesce, like a Falk. If they do that, then I think it's money in, money out, where they trade the other guy away and get whatever they're getting back.
Yeah, but why are you getting a Pesce or a Falk for a Zeit? Like, you're not.
Yeah.
Well,
you're
Yeah,
right?
well, that's the point. That's the point, Peter. I don't think Carolina is interested in Zaitsev because he's just a righty for a righty. I think it would have to be two-pronged where the Leafs make a deal with Carolina and then they move Zaitsev someplace else.
They're not going to go get Gardner when he's not signed either. You know, like
well, right. That's right. That's why I'm saying it probably would be the same deal that we've been talking about for months, which is one of the Leaf forwards like a Kapanen or a Janssen or even a Nylander in a deal for, or maybe if they're really high on Bracco because Bracco is a U.S. national development player. Don Waddell was heavily involved in USA hockey. Yeah. Dudley has been at Marley's games, and Bracco leads the Marlies in scoring. So he would be a cheap, a guy with another year in his contract where maybe they move him in a draft pick for one of the defensemen. I don't know. All I know is that there continues to be this connection between these two teams. I don't know if it's going to happen now before the deadline or before the draft or something, but something's going to happen eventually between the two.
Yeah,
teams.
it definitely feels
I'll give you a name. I have the name. I think I have the name.
Okay.
And just on my own gut feeling, maybe the Leafs are trying to get Calvin DeHaan because DeHaan hasn't fit in particularly well with Carolina.
He's another lefty, though.
You know what? But it doesn't matter, Mike. Not everybody's going to be a righty. But the idea is he does have a connection with Tavares. He is a good defender. Like, he is actually a good defender, and maybe Carolina wants to get out of that contract. Then I could see the Leafs swapping a defenseman for a defenseman or one of their young forwards for him. And so, maybe they trade Janssen for him. I don't know, but I'm just saying I could see Calvin DeHaan going to Toronto.
And the Leafs were in the bidding for DeHaan and lost out to Carolina.
Yeah.
When did you get
the Leafs are going, I think when you talk about the Leafs and what they're going to do to solve these holes, I think Muzzin is their move on defense. I don't think something else is coming. I think that's it. And they're going to see what has to happen if better moves have to be made in the offseason.
Right.
The point that they have to measure out, the Marlies are a good team. They're going to watch the postseason with the Marlies and what's going on. And they're going to see if anyone's coming up from there because that's the preferred solution because dollars are tight.
Yep.
They want to know if anyone's going to come from within first before they go outside. And that's just the way it's going to be. If they have to go outside, I think one of the things they're going to have to do, particularly if Carolina is the target, and we all seem to think it is because something's got to give with Carolina. I believe there's a general thinking out there that Carolina has a roughly 6 to 6.5 million salary cap that they want to spend on players.
Right.
I think that's just where Dundon's placed his value. Right. Like he's not going to go and drop 7.5 on someone. I just don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. And if that's the case, you have to operate knowing that he's got a threshold of pain on a budgetary aspect of salary. And you got to look at deals, how that fits in. So if it's coming back where he's going to take a liability that's more than 6.5, what equals that out? Would you trade Nylander and hold on to $500,000 of a salary to make it happen?
Well, they'd have to hold on to $500,000 over 6 years. You can't hold it for 1 year. Well, but what I thought was, and this is just me spitballing, we know based on his name being floated out there that there's something not right with Carolina and Dougie Hamilton, and would the want to get out of Dougie Hamilton's last 2 years of his contract at over $6 million mean that they would be prepared to take somebody making less for a longer term or somebody less who's on an expiring contract like Gardner? I don't know, but I don't put anything past the Carolina Hurricanes when it comes to money.
Let me also bring this up with DeHaan. He only makes $1.5 million more for Hainsey. What if the Leafs sent them Hainsey and a player for DeHaan? I think that could happen.
Yeah, the only thing is
that's an upgrade, and that's an upgrade.
It's definitely an upgrade, and Hainsey's an expiring contract. But the only problem is that basically he's the Patrick Marleau on defense. That
isn't he like
they want him like they had him with Morgan Riley, and Morgan Riley has grown over the last 2 years to the point that he's going to be a Norris Trophy candidate this year. Now they have him working with a Travis Dermott, and only after a couple weeks have you seen an upgrade in Dermott's play. But they like the effect that Hainsey has on their young defense.
Sure, but that may not last beyond the trade deadline because he's just going to get older as the playoffs move forward. And to me, it would be a good upgrade if they can make the deal.
But he's on the bottom pairing now, so that's less of a concern. I think the big concern is that second pairing of Gardner and Zaitsev, which is a complete and utter train wreck on most nights. They give up the puck constantly. They did against Ottawa, and that's what I think the concern is. I think the top pairing of Muzzin and Wiley is really.
You could put DeHaan on the second pairing and move Zaitsev down. You could.
Yeah, you could, but I think that the whole purpose of any if it's DeHaan, then they have to move something out salary wise, even though DeHaan's contract is reasonable. So I don't know if I see a Zaitsev DeHaan type of deal, because then Carolina's more right-handed and the Leafs are more left-handed. It is something that is a concern to Babcock.
Okay, I want to touch base on a couple other players
Sure.
for a second, real quick. We'll do some quick hits here. Kevin Hayes. I've been tracking Kevin Hayes for a little bit here. He's been up and down. Obviously, Russ, correct me if I'm wrong, but people out to New York tell me he's had a really strong year.
No, he's had a really good year. This has been a big year. I don't want to say it's changed my opinion of him because I don't think it has.
Yeah.
But he's had a really good year. But he's 37 points, 12 goals. It's a nice year for Kevin Hayes.
Right.
It's not a $6.5 million year.
And the feeling is going to be a tough negotiation, right? Because in the past he's had a history of he kind of talks his way out of Chicago, right?
He's not gotten paid yet.
Yeah, right. Now the team I've heard.
If Jan was here, he would say that they should sign Kevin Hayes, but they have the possibility of getting a first-round pick for Kevin Hayes. So I would think
and he might come back anyhow.
Exactly.
The Sharks, the Wild, and the Oilers are the three teams that I've heard connected with them. I think the Oilers are an interesting one, actually.
Well, I think the Wild are more interesting now with the news that Koivu's out for the year, because they can.
The other thing, Mike, that we didn't bring up yesterday that I had thought about at the rink last night, it was actually a good thing that Minnesota traded for Victor Rask because they got a center in that trade.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that sort of helps them now with what their loss is. But if you add Kevin Hayes, that does change the complexion. I just don't know if they, beyond the first round pick, if they have the right guy to add to that deal. Like if the Rangers asked for Luke Cunnin has gotten hot for Minnesota.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd want to part with him, but you never know.
Now, Russ, the Minnesota Wild have the Carolina Hurricanes centers from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the worst thing. I'm
just saying it's funny. It's funny that it worked out.
It's funny. It is.
The other guy that's come up a lot in the last couple of days is Tyson Barrie, who we've talked about for years. He's been a commonly rumored trade guy for a long time.
Whenever Colorado is struggling defensively, the first name that comes out is Tyson Barrie.
Right, it's always the case, and they have some good young defensemen now, which they seem to like, which is helping fuel this too. I think that they feel like they can maybe move Barrie. Barrie's got some value,
and he's got a year left at $5.5 million. So it's if a team is out there that wants to make a short-term investment and not lock themselves up long-term, he would make sense. The problem is he's a right-handed Jake Gardner. He is a really risky player in his own end. He's good on the power play. He's a point producer, but defensively he's challenged.
Yeah.
And if a team's looking for a power play quarterback or a puck rusher, he makes a lot of sense. I just don't know. The problem is he's sort of a specialist, but he doesn't. He has to play more than that for Colorado because he's one of the highest.
He can absolutely fly. And the good thing about Tyson Barrie is his speed is remarkable. And I think that's why I've always felt like he would really be a wonderful fit for Edmonton. In a lot of ways.
Because anybody who can play defense would be a fit on Edmonton.
Well, no, I know, but but also Montreal definitely has interest in him. New Jersey has interest in him. Florida, those are the teams that I've heard so far, and I think that New Jersey's an interesting one because they're going to probably make some deals, but they're also going to be buyers. I've heard as well. They're not looking at, they're looking at
buyers for the future.
Buyers for the future, right? And
they got so much cap space, they have to be.
Yeah, and if you're bringing Barrie there, you can convince him maybe to stay. I mean, players do like playing for the Devils, despite what other people think around the league. The Devils are a good team to play for.
Yeah.
And I think that. So I think that's one I would watch. I would watch definitely closely.
Well, it's funny, Ek. There is a secondary market. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. They're the big names, the Duchesnes, the Stones, the Panarins, but the secondary market is Hayes, Hagelin, Zuccarello. There's a lot of names there that I think are going to get moved. Now we can add Artem Anisim off to that. So Brian Boyle was like the first one of those guys, and maybe at the lower end because he doesn't, he's not a big point producer. But I think those guys they're more likely to move than the big names. At least early on, the big names may have to wait till closer to the deadline.
You have to make a big trade. If you're going to make a trade for one of, I think that the GM who gets out in front of the trade deadline is going to be the one who makes something out of this, because when you have this many players available,
that's what
so many first and second round draft picks out there.
But that's what Dubas did with Muzzin. I mean, he may have given up a little more, but I think he set the market and he got the guy a month before the deadline. And Peter, I think the Leafs are going to make a defensive trade. It may not be the top 4 guy, but they're going to get somebody because they're just Babcock is obsessed with the fact that they're too left-handed. So I think that's why
that's the other thing too. This is why DeHaan is probably, I don't think he makes a sense for a few teams, Russ, but Babcock is embedded he's embedded in his DNA that you need rights on rights, left on left.
You know what?
Doesn't
who
says that, Peter, but he's dealt with it. That's not always been the case with Detroit teams. Go back and look at him.
I know, but it's his preference.
Who
preference. So whatever.
DeHaan makes perfect sense for? The Winnipeg Jets. He's a left-hand shot.
Yeah.
They need left-hand defensemen.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, though. I mean, that would be
Never mind.
Go ahead.
Devil's credit. Yeah, Peter.
No, I was going to say you could probably Ehlers and a first for DeHaan and Aho.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
you got 5 more years of cap certainty with Ehlers, $6 million.
Yeah, but then you get another RFA who's going to hit the jackpot with Aho. Come on.
Yeah, but you can sort that out. That's the point. I'll take Aho over Ehlers any day of the week and twice on Saturday.
We all would. I do want to give the Devils credit for something. The best contract in the NHL might be Kyle Palmieri, because looking at his contract, he's got 40 points, he's got 23 goals. He's 5 years at a 4.6 AAV, I think it is. That's tremendous. That's really good work by them.
That is nuts. I wanted to show this last goal because now Elias Pettersson, who obviously everybody knows is a superstar and a half. And honestly, the funny thing about him, I don't know if anybody else is getting this off from him, but he's the player who most reminds me of Wayne Gretzky in the way he skates and handles his stick, and the kinds of passes he makes, and how he's not.
Reminds me of it a little.
He's very slight. He's not a big guy. But
does he high stick people the same way?
Oh my God! Here we go.
No, he's he's starting to make this shot famous. I mean, this is the goal he scored last night, and he is like the one timer, the opposite of Ovechkin and Stamkos on the other side guy. Like he's the right side one timer guy.
He's what Line A used to be.
Right.
So can I head off a budding that is going to start to happen, because I was hearing murmurs yesterday at the Flyers game.
Yep.
So the budding controversy is there are people, I believe, media people that believe that Carter Hart could be a better Calder candidate than Elias Pettersson, and I just say there is no way. It doesn't matter how hot Carter Hart gets, unless he wins the Vezina. Pettersson is one of the best scorers in the NHL, forgetting about being a rookie already.
And that's another way he kind of reminds you of Gretzky. When Gretzky came into the league, he was just immediately one of the best players in the league.
Correct.
And
this is no slight to Carter Hart. It's just like he can make the ballot, but unless Pettersson gets hurt, he's not winning.
Yeah, no, I mean Carter Hart, he could go 22-4,
And it won't matter.
and not. I mean, Pettersson is just he's a monumental. I mean, he's generational, right?
Yeah.
And there's no question about it. And just his I mean, it's interesting. It's so much fun to see a guy like that again, because we really haven't had a guy like that for a long time. I mean, we have a lot of skilled players, but just the smoothness of Pettersson is just so reminiscent of Gretzky.
Want to hear something freaky, Ek?
Yeah.
So last year in the SHL, in 44 games, he had 24 goals. This year in the NHL, in 44 games, he has 25 goals. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. He's got such. For such a great playmaker, he's got such a sniper's instinct to him, and he also he's got this killer instinct, bro. He will fire shots like he'll fire shot after shot after shot, and as hard as he shoot as hard as he possibly can, no matter how close he is to the goalie type thing, and with great accuracy. He's really an intimidating force for a guy who is looks like he weighs 150 pounds.
But that's the thing that could derail him, because I mean, we know about the Matheson hit. He got his bell rung a couple games ago and had to go. I think he had to go to the darker room, and he came back and he was okay. But either they have to find somebody, a protector on his line, or they have to find some solution to that, because he's too valuable to be in and out of the lineup. They need him to be in the lineup for them to win. He's that valuable of a player.
Mike, was your favorite movie My Bodyguard when you were growing up? I just want to know.
No.
He's also
I'm not a big Chris Makepeace fan.
How to get out of the way, how to avoid hits a little bit more. Like Pettersson's, he's young, so he's getting into a lot of dirty spots and stuff like that. He's going to have to not do that, because like all those players, those type of players do, But I honestly can't remember a player as smooth, and who just has that since for those
Well, Laine's shot is pretty great too. There's a difference in the two. Laine's shot is more powerful and it's very fluid as well. It just seems like Pettersson's is more refined. I know there's nothing that I could point to that proves that.
I think the thing with Pettersson is that his positioning is very refined.
Yeah.
He's finding seams and angles that rookies shouldn't be doing.
Right.
He's going in against veterans, some good teams, and he is finding spaces that no one's doing.
Oh, yeah, no, it's crazy.
And that's where it is, Russ. His shot's great. The mechanics of his shot are good, but he is getting into places. And I wrote a little bit about this with Laine too. If you watch Laine, in terms of great shots, you watch Laine on the power play right now, and he's moved to the power play too last night. He's static. He's not sitting in the same way with his stick as Pettersson is. He literally doesn't move. Pettersson's got a little bit of this and that, and he's always kind of shaking and baking. And it gives the passer, the guy with the puck, an option of when to pass. If the guy's not ready, you can't pass to him. So Laine's not getting passes.
He's always got to stick down, and he's ready to receive a pass. It's a big deal.
His sweep shot that he can rip with not a lot of windup is outrageous.
Watch us say, for example, for a second, and let me show you two things that are just crazy. Okay, so I'm going to stop this as we go here. So this over here is Duncan Keith, right? So, no, you've got Pettersson here. So obviously, right now Pettersson's, again, like you say, Peter, he's by himself. He's found out. So as this play goes on, and it comes to Pettersson, even you can see now this is Taves. But look, for Pettersson's a rookie, look how much space he's being given.
Yeah. It's crazy. You got to put your stick in there. You do.
Yeah, there's nobody on him on the sideboards there. And watch, they no one even goes after him. They sit and this is Taves and Keith, two of the best players in the NHL.
Right. It's on the penalty kill. But
longer one of the best players in the
NHL. But the point was Pettersson moved out to get the pass.
How was no one watching him when he's at this point?
But what Chicago is doing here is they respect Pettersson enough in terms of his playmaking ability, his passing ability, is they're collapsing the box down closer to the goal to cut the cross ice pass, but it just opens up other avenues. So that's,
to be honest, who's at the point shot for Vancouver? I wouldn't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Probably Edler, right?
Yeah. Right. I would let Edler shoot all day.
I don't know how he's left this alone on this play. It's just And even on this shot, like it's like they just and you're right. I mean, his release here. The cool thing about this shot to me is that there's a lot of one-timers and stuff like that, but this one-timer is not easy because this is not like a straight across one-timer. This is a one-timer that's coming from behind you. So like this puck is being passed from behind him to him. Like you already see the one-timers that come straight across.
Yeah.
Well, Russ,
he's picking this up from behind him and putting it on it and putting it with that kind of power on net. That's nuts.
Just think how lethal the Canuck power play will be when Quinn Hughes turns pro. I mean, that's Pierre LeBrun came out last night and said that Fabro, who is at Boston U, Russ?
Yeah.
That he's going to turn pro as soon as their season is over with, and that Quinn Hughes is going to turn pro after Michigan's season is done. So, I don't think Vancouver plans to trade Quinn Hughes, but they said Fabro might be a trade piece if Nashville makes the big deal for a forward. So, we have to be on the lookout for that. Plus, LeBrun just tweeted out, from the Columbus perspective, Panarin switching agents doesn't change much. Panarin still wants to head to market. That's the understanding. So,
yeah, I mean, we know that. I mean, that's definite. We kind of knew that. The Quinn Hughes on that. I mean, unfortunately, it's going to be like Alex Hu the minute Quinn Hughes gets to the point on that power play.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to be like.
And final thought here is on last night's Jets Canadiens game. Someone had a question about it. Peter, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, Habs are dangerous. Paul Maurice summed up the comments about the Jets is the players didn't come to play, nor did the coaches. Like, he put the blame on himself too. And he called it a horse crap, maybe a little more descriptive effort, but didn't shy away from it on himself and his co-coaches. Look, I haven't seen a lot of the Habs game, and I was actually supposed to go to Montreal for that game and visit a friend of mine out there. And I sort of wish I'd been there in person, but glad I wasn't. But my goodness, what Therrien has that club doing should
not Therrien.
Julian.
Therrien, sorry. What? Yeah. Yeah. Pick any French coach. They're always going to be in Montreal. You just get mixed up as they recycle through them. And when's he coming back next? Like, is frightening. Like, their forecheck was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying, and that's the one team you don't want in the first round.
Well, I don't know about that but I'll tell you this: Saturday night, Toronto, Montreal at the Bell Center. It's probably the first time in recent memory where both teams are good, both teams are consequential, and Montreal's 1 point behind the Leafs for second place in the Atlantic.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I would, again, the season isn't ending today, but if the season did end today, it's Toronto, Montreal in the first round. Gimme, please. I'd rather face the friggin' Habs than face the Bruins, because we know what will happen when they face the Bruins.
Yeah, we talked about that before.
We'll end on that note, that optimistic note.
We'll end on that note. I think that's the worst possible.
Yes, it's always optimistic. That's a great one for the.
We actually, we got to run, guys. Sorry, we're out of time here. But thank you so much for watching us and supporting us. Patreon.com/hockey if you want to help pledge to the show and keep the show going and keep the show free and advertisement free and keep it running clear. So remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Have a wonderful weekend. Yeah, everybody. Enjoy the games.